Hi there. In this short presentation, I will discuss the importance of structure within academic writing and demonstrate how mapping out the structure of your assignment before you begin the detailed writing process can greatly increase the quality of your work while making the writing process more straightforward. When students are first set a written assignment, the desire to get words down onto the page often outweighs any considerations of assignment planning. Jumping straight into the writing of sentences without any clear idea of the main points and subpoints to be discussed in the rest of the essay will almost inevitably lead to an assignment which lacks focus and cohesion. It can also be a much more difficult experience to write an assignment without giving yourself any kind of structure to work from. A well-structured academic assignment breaks the discussion into sections and paragraphs which enable the reader to follow the argument in a logical manner, with each paragraph discussing one clearly defined point or idea at a time. While there are a range of formats which a written assessment at university may take, the two most common forms are the essay and the report. Perhaps the key distinction between these two types of assignment is in how they are structured. Normally, if you're asked to undertake a report, you will be given specific guidance on the different sections that this will break down into. And you will use headings in your final submission to allow your reader to navigate the sections of the report. For example, you may be expected to begin a report with an executive summary, then move on to the introduction, then the methods and findings, and then the conclusions and recommendations. Please bear in mind though that this is just one example of how you may be asked to structure a report. The expected structure of a report can vary between different subject areas and levels of study. The key point here is that most of the time, when you're asked to write a report, there will be some sort of predefined structure to work within. Essays, in contrast, aside from the introduction and conclusion, which I'll discuss in the next few slides, tend not to have a prescribed structure. While the assignment guidelines may give you some ideas or even suggestions as to how to break the main body up into sections and paragraphs, when writing an essay, this decision tends to be one that you have to make yourself. Again, in order to give yourself the best chance of producing high quality academic writing, it is important that you plan out the structure of the main body right down to the paragraph level before you begin writing. The main purpose of an introduction in an essay is to set out the context of what is to follow in the main body. To begin your introduction, you may want to give some brief but essential background detail concerning the essay topic. You might feel it is useful to highlight the relevance of the topic with a fact or some key statistics. However, unless you're specifically directed to, don't waste time or words giving a long history or background of the topic in the introduction. Bear in mind that introductions usually only make up a small percentage of the final mark, sometimes none at all. Therefore, you should not waste words or evidence in the introduction which will not gain you marks or which could have been used more effectively elsewhere in the assignment. All introductions should, however, give details about what the assignment aims to do and how it will do it. We can tell our reader what we aim to do by outlining in the clearest possible way the issue or question that is being addressed by the essay. It can be useful to return to the assignment guidance at this point in order to show that your essay fits with the brief that has been set for you. Secondly, we tell our reader how the essay will do this by giving an overview of the main points which will be covered in the essay itself. Think of this part of the intro as like a map of the essay, giving the reader details of the central points which will be discussed in the main body. We can word this in the most direct way possible. For example, we might write something like, this essay will discuss the question of X. In doing so, it will examine A. The essay will then move on to focus on B, before finally looking at C. Since an introduction gives an overview of the main body in this way, it often makes sense to write the introduction after the main body has been completed. If the aim of the introduction is to tell the reader what will be discussed in the main body, the conclusion succinctly summarises these main discussion points and tells the reader the key findings which have been produced as a result of this discussion. In this respect, the conclusion should to some extent mirror the introduction, but should not simply repeat it. The conclusion is where you draw out and emphasise the most significant discussion points and use your summary of these points to make concluding statements which tell your reader how your essay has addressed the questions or issues set out by the assignment guidelines. Since a conclusion aims to bring together the key points of the main body in this way, you should normally not introduce any new information or evidence in the conclusion. Everything should be focused on the main points covered in the main body of the essay itself. Where there is no set way to approach the structuring of an essay, a general rule is to think of the process of breaking down your argument into broad topics, that is sections, and points, that is paragraphs. The aim is to order these structural elements in a logical way. Your goal is to give the main body coherence, allowing the reader to move easily throughout the essay. Thinking of these two different levels of structure can be useful, since our larger sections prompt us to group related paragraphs together in an order that best allows us to address the requirements of the assignment. When planning the structure of assignment, then, the first question we should ask ourselves is, how do I break this assignment into broad sections? The number and length of these sections will vary depending on the assignment requirements. Sometimes our assignment guidelines might tell us explicitly the sections required. This is the case in report writing, and some essay guidance may give you a section structure to work within. Some essays, however, may require you to decide on sectional divisions yourself. Clear sections in an essay help us to group together related paragraphs, which gives our essay coherence and ensures that our argument progresses in a logical manner. The second question you will need to address when planning your essay structure is, how do these sections break down into paragraphs? This is true of both report writing and essay writing. The paragraph is the most important structural division in academic writing. If you think carefully about your paragraphs during this planning stage and give each one a clear and focused point, then it will make the writing process much easier, and it will help you to produce high quality academic writing. There are a few things to consider when working out your paragraphs. The first is that each should deal with a clearly defined idea. The aim is that each paragraph should, over the course of the sentences within it, develop a focused and discussion of one point. A good test is to ensure that you can summarise this point or idea to yourself in a very short sentence, phrase, or even a word. Once you're ready to move on to a new point, it is time for a new paragraph. This approach will allow you to narrow down your assignment to a discussion of the most relevant ideas and should stop you going off on a tangent or including relevant information. If you read back over a paragraph and find it difficult to summarise the point of the paragraph in a succinct way, then this is a sign that your paragraph lacks focus. It is important you decide on the point to be covered in each paragraph during the planning stage. This can be a difficult decision to make and will require some initial research, but it will also make the writing process much more straightforward. Remember too that you cannot cover every single relevant aspect of a topic in an essay. A good essay takes the most relevant points and discusses them in focused paragraphs. This almost inevitably means that you may have to leave out points which, had you had more words to work with, you may have included. By trying to include too many individual and underdeveloped points in an essay, the argument is spread too thin and the quality of the overall discussion is reduced. While there is no rule as to how long a paragraph should be, you should avoid writing in 1 or 2 sentence paragraphs. An essay with lots of very short paragraphs reads in a very fragmented way. It is a sign that the writer has not given any consideration to selecting the most important points for discussion and is instead just starting writing whatever comes to mind. Remember that the point of the paragraph is to take one clear and focused idea and discuss it in detail. If you only have 2 sentences, then the chances are you aren't offering enough detail on that point, or you have one point scattered over a number of paragraphs. Similarly, very large paragraphs can be difficult for the reader to navigate. Overly long paragraphs make it hard for the reader to work out when a discussion is moving on to a new point, or how the information being conveyed is relevant to the overall assignment question. Thanks very much for listening. Remember, you can get further support with the topic discussed in this presentation or anything else academic skills related by booking a 30-minute academic skills appointment through the UWS Careers and Skills site. Hour-long group appointments can also be arranged by emailing skills@uws.ac.uk. Please also have a listen to our podcast on academic skills, including the one on essay structure. All episodes are available on Spotify. Thanks a lot.